right, here we go. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Dan and Lori and Kenji and Catherine. And today we are continuing our discussion of the book Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Myss. We're in chapter 6 at the section titled The First Chakra. We've been going through kind of the descriptions of and the ways to understand all the different chakras, and we're down to the first one. This is on page 188. But before we get going with that, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it with the reading.
Lori Emmons in Denver.
Dan Sissick in Las Vegas.
And Pettingill, Gormain.
Jason, we just are introducing ourselves. If you can unmute and introduce yourself, then great. And if not, then if you're ready. There you are.
Hey, yeah, this is Jason from Tampa. Happy to be here, guys. Great to see you all.
Awesome.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
All right. This is Catherine Clement, and I'll do the reading. We're going to start at the first chakra. The lesson, all is one. The power is groundedness. The strengths are family identity, bonding, and loyalty. And the shadow is excluding others, prejudice, illusions of superiority. The first chakra corresponds to the area where the body makes contact with the earth when seated in the classic posture of meditation. It grounds us in physical life, in the physical arena. Every experience, every encounter we have automatically engages our first chakra, which assesses our immediate environment for the basic details of size, shape, people, and all other factors that relate to physical characteristics. The first chakra also grounds us to the groups that support our life. Our relationship with power begins with learning how it works within our family and other social groups or tribal connections, including friends, gangs, religious affiliations, and social class. Other forms of group power connections include genetic inheritance, ethnic heritage, and national identity, as well as group beliefs, values, attitudes, and superstitions. An enormous supply of your energy is invested in potent beliefs common to thousands or millions of other people. Many people have been told that a certain illness runs in their family, for example, and that they have a natural propensity towards that disease. As a result of having this notion reinforced in their psyche, they invest their energy in that thought, giving it power and authority over them. I've worked with many people who, in the process of healing a serious illness, try every form of alternative medicine, including visualization and positive thinking. Yet when I ask whether they believe that they can heal the illness, a high percentage admit to hoping they can, while at the same time expressing their doubts, because modern medical research maintains that no cure has been found. So, although their mind is focused on maintaining a positive attitude, their energy or power, which is the only investment that matters, is connected to the findings and beliefs of the medical community. Their attachment to the power of that group thought form inevitably dominates, because hope without power is no match for fear with power. That's a good sentence right there. Hope without power is no match for fear with power.
Amen.
Your chakras, like your archetypes and contracts, are essentially neutral, providing you with either strength or vulnerability, depending on how you make use of their energy. Your first chakra, for instance, connects you to family loyalties, traditions, rituals, social laws, and the many positive elements of society that give you a sense of identity. I believe that we agree to be born to parents whose genetic traits and family lineage provide precisely the assets and liabilities that will help us most in learning and contributing what we need to do in this life. Our parents' financial situation, level of intellect, psychological and emotional predispositions, and geographic location are all part of the equation that yields the sum of our own life. There are no accidents of birth, as the phrase goes. Everything is provided for your particular journey, including the social, ethnic, and religious value systems of your family, which form the foundation of your consciousness and the lens through which you will first encounter life. The 3-column model, a user's guide. Although the chakras appear to progress in a logical fashion from bottom to top, a shift in energies occurs between the 3rd and 4th chakras. This change is so clearly defined that I consider the 7 traditional chakras actually to be 2 distinct perpetual systems within the human psyche and body. To illustrate this configuration, I divide the chakras into 2 columns. The first, or left-hand column, contains chakras 1, 2, and 3. The second column, chakras 4 through 7. The 2 teams of chakras function on very different levels of consciousness. The first column chakras are aligned to physical power and the physical plane of life, to the experiences that concern our survival. They are fed information by our 5 senses. How much power we give to money, sexuality, authority, fame, control, social position, and other manifestations of our physical world is regulated by these 3 energy centers. The second column chakras are aligned to the internal forces of our minds, hearts, and spirits. I refer to this column as a person's internal laboratory because these chakras resonate with the energy dimension of life. A symbolic line of separation exists between our sensory experiences and our internal lives. We are often unaware, for example, that our response to external objects is the result of emotional and psychological projections that come from a repository of personal experiences. We view physical reality through an elaborate set of internal filters that prevent us from seeing things as they really are. In studying how emotional stress and trauma leave their marks on our personal biology, I have learned that healing requires a merger of these 2 polarities of the psyche. Your internal world has to find a way to build a bridge to your external world so that you can see through to the truth that connects your intentions with what you actually do. And then it has like a little diagram with the 3 columns. Archetypes are the most effective bridge between these worlds that I have found. Identifying them and working through the information inherent in each of your chakras will help you see your life more clearly. Archetypal patterns are represented by the 3rd column. Together, these columns illustrate the 3 levels of consciousness through which we experience reality. The first column signifies our physical lives, which is self-esteem, money, sex, power, and family and survival. The second column denotes our psyches and spirits, and the 3rd column contains the archetypal coordinates of our sacred contract, the 8th chakra. The 3 columns represent how we function simultaneously on the physical plane, the internal plane, and the collective symbolic dimension. Once we are awakened to something, a truth or an injustice, we are held accountable and must take action according to that truth. We cannot ignore or suppress that awareness. There's no going back. Once we acknowledge a truth to ourselves at the conscious level, our lives will change dramatically and quickly. If we become aware, for example, that forgiveness is the higher path than vengeance, a part of our psyche and soul becomes relentless in reminding us of that truth whenever we must choose forgiveness or vengeance. When it comes to soul knowledge, we are born already knowing what we need to know. Do you want me to continue or stop there?
I think we have a fair amount to talk about. That's fine, because this section kind of goes on for a while.
Yeah, it does. All right, I'll stop there then.
Let's see. So
That root chakra is super, super important. That's all about safety and security and feeling like you belong. And a lot of people have root chakra issues, myself included. And kind of like she says in the, well, I don't know if she really said it or I just got it, but sometimes it doesn't matter like how much you work on something, it still just sticks, it stays, it doesn't, it's something that doesn't heal or whatever. And regardless of how much clearing or energy work or any kind of work or psychological work. And I think that's because it is involved with survival. I think that's why so many people have those root issues.
And that can explain why it's constantly in my head. It's all about the survival of the fittest. And, a lot of society or whatever, and people's opinions, whatever. I wonder how and why I keep continuing, because if it was solely left up to me at this point in my journey with this illness, disease, whatever you want to call it, I should be left, the pack of wolves should leave and abandon me.
Oh. Wouldn't they eat you first?
What?
Wouldn't they eat you first?
Well, that's what I'm thinking that she meant. And I certainly don't like that idea.
No, I don't like that idea. That's just what would normally happen in the wild.
In the indigenous culture, you mean?
Yeah.
That oftentimes I have heard that too. But that seems a little brutal. I think that flies in the face of wanting to honor our older, wiser part of the group. But yet I also see where a lot of the indigenous people kept moving, and it was a matter of survival, going where the food is and so forth, so that oftentimes they had to leave the sicker
Members.
Thanks. Members of the tribe, so to speak. So I've not that I know a lot about indigenous people, but that's often been a real sticky part for me. Again, on one side, you're supposed to look after, no matter what, the older, wiser, even though their bodies are failing, their minds are oftentimes still providing and teaching. And just as you are, Lori, we get insights from things that you say, and looking at it from a different perspective. Just bringing this up is helping us to look at things from a different perspective. So in light of that,
I certainly wasn't thinking or saying, I'm just saying that's the thought process that going through years of this and thinking and believing that we are all just specimens in someone's experiment.
No, I mean, I do understand. I also feel that we have to continue to value ourselves and our contribution. But I understand that it's a double-edged sword for you. That it's hard, each day, and I can't even imagine being in your place,
I can't even make a comparison, because we are all in that position. We're all specimens in someone's experiment.
Well, the person, I mean, who's
know.
experimented? That's spirit's experiment, right? But we all agree.
Exactly.
we agreed to be a part of it. I mean, do you all think the same thing as me? Isn't that a truth?
Pretty
Well,
much.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, Lori, and I think we all think that about ourselves, but it's in how the rest of us see you and the valuable and the uniqueness of who you are and your strength and your spirit that helps keep you somehow going every day, that gives us strength and hope within our own lives for whatever we're going through. So I think there's inherent value, and I think people outside of your bubble see that and value and would never wish that to happen to you, or that
No,
you would, feel that way. But
I'm
yeah,
not.
but go
Okay,
ahead.
I have another. Okay, you go, Lori, and then I just thought of something that I want to say. Go ahead.
Um, it's not that I have a death wish or am depressed about any of it. It's just my journey. And all the things she was talking about, the medical profession says it's incurable. The family history, I have fought against that for the longest time. There's so many nurses in the family, and oh yeah, well that's the way it's gonna be. And I'm like, no. And just like I'm a unique specimen in this experiment, because most people have a lot more pain and deal with things differently than I do. And I just refuse to accept. I don't necessarily agree with the pharmaceutical industry that, oh, well, we got to add this concoction or whatever to slow the progression. And I just don't have that experience. It doesn't help me. It makes it worse. And all the things I've tried over 33 years and counting, I probably had it longer than that. It's just, that's when it was diagnosed. The doctor says, go ahead, Jane.
Well, my perspective is, you add an energy that is very loving and kind and impish, and so that, even though you have physical failings, that is very important in this time and age, meaning you're adding to a higher frequency, which is helping us to have the collective consciousness rise up to a higher frequency, which is allowing all kinds of really good things to happen, in the physical. All of that, of course, is happening, kind of behind the scenes, the frequency. But that, I guess that's, to me, the biggest reason why I see your presence here in the physical. Even though you've got, a lot of things that are difficult for you, your life is not easy, but yet you're valued because of your positive energy. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Thank you. And it's all an attempt to become better, not bitter.
Oh, that was perfect. Yes. Well, me too. better
Well,
version of myself, and not bitter because of things that happened, to accept what has happened that led me to who I am now. Go on.
and that's the same with all of us. It's part of the journey. And
Yes.
I I can see how my past experiences, my birth, my life, my family, all of those influences in that column, to discover and label and overcome each of those, and a constant change and battle.
Yes. Well, and that you have to deal with. We all, I think, a constant change in battle, especially with what's
Exactly.
going on in the world right now. That's we have to kind of live in the moment and believe, at least I do, and I think you probably feel the same way, as well as all of us, chime in if you have a thought on this, is that we have to stay in the moment and believe and have faith that it's really going to be okay, and that who we are adds to, we're supposed to be here, we were meant to be here, and we have contracts, soul contracts. We're supposed to add to this incredible revolution that's happening, and I believe that our book club just started a new book. I don't know if you're familiar with Neil Donald Walsh. He has a new book out, and it's really interesting. And he's the one who wrote Conversations with God, and his new one is, I think, really well written and fabulous, and really, and I think, and that feeds my spirit. That really, I think Oprah termed that phrase: "Do something every day that feeds your spirit." And my spiritual books and my spiritual friends, along with all of you, feed my spirit. So, and knowing that it really, there's going to be some tough times ahead, individually, as well as just everybody who's in physical form on this planet are going to be going through some challenges.
No different than it's ever been. It's always been something changed and expanding and growing and learning and developing and discovering. And
True. But sometimes we need reminders that that we're still on a journey, and it has value. It has just a lot of value, not just for people that we touch in our life. Like you, Lori, you touch people in your life in a very positive way. So
I heard the aliens decided that we are a threat to ourselves and the universe, so they're getting ready to intervene. So some shit's going to happen.
I have heard something similar, but I'm glad. You're being serious, right, Catherine?
I am being serious.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
May
Yeah.
the force be with us.
Yeah.
I think
my spirit.
What's that, Jason?
What feeds my spirit is whenever I start thinking that life's a battle and it's going to be difficult, I like to change that and find a better way to think about it.
True. That's a good reminder.
I don't think of I think that's a horrible way of looking at things, at life and stuff, is, oh, it's going to be a battle and it's going to get worse and it's going to, it's like, I mean, that starts in your head and you have control over that. So that's how I like to feed my spirit with positive things, positive ways of looking at stuff, and understand that, like the book's saying, this is grounding your values, your attitude, your beliefs. That's your grounding. If you think, oh, it's life is survival of the fittest and everyone's out to get us, or I should be, I shouldn't even be here, then that's where your grounding, your belief, and your attitude's coming from. I think you can feed your own spirit with something a little bit better than that, because we all deserve more than that. That's just my thought on it.
I like that, but I can't discount Lori's, what she goes through. I can't.
Oh yeah, I'm not discounting it, but I like to, when I
Switch,
feed
flip it
my
around.
spirit by changing my, I may feel that way. I may feel like, you know, things are always going the wrong way. I could, if I'd searched for a pattern, I could probably find both a good pattern and a bad pattern. And if I choose the bad pattern to be focused on and grounded from, that's my bad. But the other thing I was thinking, actually, when Catherine was saying about survival, I was thinking more of like how a lot of times people feel like they can't let go of their trauma in their life because they feel like it gives them their identity. And it's like they don't, that's, I was kind of going along that idea with it. But yeah, I get it, Lori. I get it, Lori. I was just had to get out there with, what I feed my spirit with anyway. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
Obviously, I try to do that as well. Otherwise, why would I even care if I continued on? Because every day it's all of these things go through my mind depending on what event or activity or whatever. Even just trying to go to the bathroom, give me a break,
Well, I think Jason made a good point though, that we do have to take our thoughts kind of captive. I mean, and for my beliefs, going back to what the Bible says, we are to
Make them obedient.
take our thoughts captive and go from there in with alignment with God and God, the universe, infinite intelligence, however you look at it. For me, God, and putting the perspective on it that we do have control of our thoughts, and we can take those thoughts captive, and how we work with them and deal with them can be the catalyst for, like what Jane was saying, how we look, perceive, move forward, and go with life, and how we value and look at other people, but then also ourselves, because sometimes we're the hardest on ourselves and give us the crappy thoughts. But yet when we're dealing with somebody else, we'll be giving them all the positive thoughts and things and saying all the things that we don't say to ourselves. Well, we need to say those things to ourselves too, and to give into that, changing that process, so that way, even though we may not change the circumstances, we change how it affects us, and also changes our chemistry within us, because we can affect our mood, we can affect how we think, how we can, by changing that thought process. And we've studied that and learned that from some of the other books that we've gone through over the years, and I think I don't do that enough for myself, and I need to do that even more.
yeah, I mean, just for instance, we were just trying to lift up Lori, or in our own way. If we do that more for each other, for ourselves, in other words, that what happened to Lori's over here now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm not I don't believe I'm in a depressed state, but
No.
give me 10 minutes
I don't
after
feel
we're
it.
done here and I'll be right back there.
I don't feel it either. I think that what we're trying to kind of discuss here, and I feel like this is maybe what you were trying to say a little bit, Lori, is that kind of recognizing the difference. And this is what she was saying in here about how, the first chakra being rooted in the ground, rooted in the beliefs that we're surrounded with on the earth and through our cultures and our belief systems and all of that kind of thing. And then the other chakras that are more of like the spiritual side, right? And we have this kind of in our physical world, we have all of these contradictory things, like what you were talking about, Lori, when it comes to like nature. and the animal kingdom. That was kind of more what I was thinking you were talking about, was in the nature and animal kingdom, there is no mercy. It just is you're weak, you fall behind, you die, you're not part of it anymore. And survival of the fittest is the way that humanity physically keeps going into, keeps going. If we were all weak, then we wouldn't survive very long, right? But if we're looking at it from the people and our belief systems of the cultures and our religious and just our communities as a whole. I mean, she's sitting here talking about how much energy is invested in these common beliefs that we have throughout our humanity, and that's what Jane's talking about, right? We believe that we should respect our elders. We believe that we should take care of them. We believe that we should take care of the people that are weak, and we should lift them up, and we should do all of these things. And so there's these two sides to the same coin of, there's the what seems to be the cold, unfeeling part of the universe that doesn't seem to give a hoot. And then there's humanity, who is like, we all care, we all want to lift each other up, we want to make each other better, we want to help one another, we want to help ourselves, right? And so I feel like there's this kind of this balance in here, and she's kind of talking about that. We're grounded to the earth, we're grounded into our humanity, but yet we're also part of the spiritual energy, like what Catherine talks about a lot, of this just all love and it's all good. And yes, there's this thing that seems to be bad on earth, but yet it serves a purpose, kind of like we're here, we have these soul contracts, and we're here to experience the experiences. Well, part of the experiences are not always pleasant, right? Like what Lori's going through. She has this condition that is struggle, and we all have things that we go through in our lives that are a struggle in one way or another. And I feel like with us is we have to figure out, okay, for instance, when she's talking about the medical, for people who are trying to heal themselves, but yet they've got all these beliefs about whether they can or not, or whether the illness is even treatable. And if we're looking at it from a spiritual only perspective, we should be able to heal ourselves like that, right? But we're still human, we're still grounded in the earth and all of the beliefs that go around with that. And so there's that kind of the back and forth struggle between, I know what I am, I'm like, I'm basically I'm my own creator, I create my own universe, I create everything for myself. Why can't I overcome this belief that this disease is incurable, right? So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts that came up in there.
I've spent 33 years and counting trying to dispute or overcome that that belief, that thought that it's incurable. And my history would deem that, of course, this is a nerve issue, clear at the root of every function, everybody goes through, that some way to overcome.
Well, going back to some of what Samantha was saying and stuff, it brought me back. And I know most of your views of the Bible, but my views and going back to parts was way back in the beginning, when there was a better connection with God, infinite intelligence, the universe. However, it seemed like mankind and our health issues and all that, we didn't have those same issues when we were more connected and more in tune and in sync with that, and mankind lived longer. But as time and generations and changes and mankind doing what mankind does, we have short-circuited some of that connection in with that. And so even just trying to work on that part, even within my own life, of trying to, thank God, luckily I don't have a huge amount of health issues. I have things I need to do, like get new glasses, work on, dental stuff and things like that. But as far as I don't have but I have other issues that, are different from Lori, but they're my issues and they go back to my childhood and things like that and how I look and perceive. And I'm sure that they do. We're up and, get in the way of me sometimes connecting, for lack of a better way. I wish I had a better connection in some cases, kind of like you, Samantha, or you, Catherine, in that, I do believe I connect and I do believe I, get guidance and direction and stuff, but sometimes I don't feel as connected as other times. And I think I get in my own head and I short circuit a lot of that too, a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you just have to every day maybe realize that and try to gain that connection again. I think, it's every day's a new day, and yeah, it doesn't take much sometimes for us to go into overthinking and maybe thinking negatively rather than in a positive sense, knowing again, that we contribute to the world by our positive thoughts, envisioning goodness, envisioning whatever your ideas of the new earth is, and also envisioning that beautiful light coming from spirit, or envisioning a leader coming forward that will change things in this country, or envisioning maybe somebody coming forward who's going to be like a B. Gaddy was in Baltimore. That you aren't from Maryland. B. Gaddy was somebody who was huge effort to feed the hungry here, huge effort, and she passed away some years ago. So, and that's the kind of thinking maybe we need to do more of, but we get caught up in our day-to-day worries and such. And yeah, so, and I do that too. It's like, you get caught up in the bills and your budget and those kind of things. And yeah.
And I don't necessarily believe that it's all based on the money, because there wasn't money in the original creation of this amazing, wonderful, fantastic existence that we have on this planet.
From what I've read, our financial institutions are going to go through a huge upheaval. I mean, they're going to crumble, and then we're going to find a replacement that is different. Who knows how long that's going to take, but and I can believe that. I can believe that, the inequities in the haves and the have-nots are just too great. And it shouldn't be that way. It should be where the poorest among us should have all that they need to live also. I mean, that's certainly one of the visions that I have, where I see Facebook friends struggling, people that I knew from high school who are barely getting by, and describe their existence, and So I don't know.
It's a part of the polarity aspect that you wouldn't know how good it is if we didn't have the bad to show us different. If we, whatever, the total opposites, the polarities, as the pendulum swings, it gets to the other side. And
But the
Like-
fact that we care, the fact that we care is important. The fact that we see this as unacceptable is important. You know, and I
how
think
can it be unacceptable if it's part of the entire reality that it's just the way it is? It's the disease that's incurable. It's the
no, I think that we create our world. So we can create, but more and more people have to see it as this needs to change. And then
there-
and envision, you know, of course that takes steps and it takes, but envision a world that where that's unacceptable, that that everybody
in the utopian world.
right, that everybody should have what they need.
How much of what's holding us back is kind of based on this idea of the virtuousness of going through the struggle, like you know, throughout our history we haven't really been able to protect ourselves from everything. So this idea of, well, I know you know, we've had to go through this thing that we didn't foresee, but hey, that's going to get us to where we want to be. You know, we're going to get, you know, it's going to be better on the other side of this struggle, you know. And how much of that kind of holds us back, and you know, because we're grounded in that kind of an idea rather than just being, let me clear the way, take the path to least resistance, let me stop throwing stuff in front of me to overcome, let me just look for the you know, let us all look for the path of least resistance to what we know is going to be a better a way of doing things. I mean, that's kind of my thought about that.
Yeah. But going back to the book but getting back into the chakra stuff and things like that, because I'm still trying to understand it better, and with not feeling great last week, missing out on but I think she makes a good point that we all tend to get so caught up in the first three aspects of the chakras that it makes it harder to even move into maybe the other four. And that's, I think, part of the struggle too, is how does one work with the first three in order to move into the other four to get to that more, in the way I'm saying, connectivity with the universe, God, spirit, for me, God, you know, in that aspect, you know, to better move forward my life that way, in that connection. If you guys can understand what I'm trying to get from the first three, move over into the other four more, and where that can then help infuse and maybe change the first three, or
Sure.
bring a better connectivity and change maybe our thoughts of the first three and how we look at it and deal with it.
Yeah, kind of like trying to sort out, you know, what is just a belief that was taught to me or that I picked up somewhere, and whether is that serving me or not. And I can choose whether I want to believe it. And but yet at the same time, For instance, on the medical side, here's something, it just amazes me sometimes how deeply ingrained some of these beliefs are that have been presented to us in our culture. And for example, like on the medical side, I hadn't been to the doctor in a couple of years, or like eye doctor in a couple of years, and I went in there. And of course, before I went in there, I occasionally would feel like my eyes were a little bit dry, but it was no big deal. I didn't really think anything of it. And I didn't feel like it was really a problem. And I went into this eye doctor and he was like, "You've got dry eye." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "Yeah, you do." And he gave me like all these reasons why he thought that I did because of examination or whatever. And I will tell you what, ever since then, I have had struggles with my freaking eyes being dry. And I'm like, "God damn it." You know, I, these these freaking medical people, I just want to freaking smack them because they don't realize how much power they have over the individual because of the way that we brought up in our culture. And that's just like one little thing. And I'm like, and I'm not somebody who like really trusts in the medical system at all. I mean, like, if you ask me about the medical system, I don't want to have any part of it, not the traditional medical system. And so that really has struck me at how much just our just overall culture believes in it so much that it even affects me who doesn't believe in it as much. I don't know, it just like seems crazy.
Well,
Go ahead, Lori. Go ahead.
I was going to say just how impressionable our thoughts and beliefs are just because someone says this, and I blow everybody's mind when they ask what prescriptions I'm on. I said, none. And at my age, 67 and a half, that to not be on any kind of medication just blows their mind.
Yeah, for sure. I just went to a place yesterday. I was getting an evaluation to start doing some a different type of exercise program. And of course, they take this like medical history and they want to know about you and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, "And you're not on any medications?" And I'm like, "No, I don't need them." You don't have a primary care physician? I'm like, "No, I don't need one." I'm like, I don't need one. So it's
I
just,
have one in case I do need, if I break a bone or slice myself open or, I have
yeah.
that. But
Yeah, it's funny to me though how strongly these cultural beliefs can have effect on us. And I think that the key is really to figure out, okay, what is something that is just the mumbo jumbo of the culture that that's affecting me, and how can I overcome that? And I'm like, I feel like we just have to keep feeding our minds with the beliefs that we want to have in order to let go of the mumbo jumbo that we don't want to have. And like, what was it, Dan, where you were talking about, back, who was talking about earlier in our, humanity, when there wasn't so many people telling us all these things that we needed to believe. And we were just kind of living one with our environments and didn't have the diseases that we have of today, right? We didn't have all of the, as
they're
much
all
of the stuff
man-made.
going on in our culture and our communities and our society and everything. And I mean, how much of all of this mumbo jumbo that's going on in the world today is simply because of the clashing between cultures, the clashing between beliefs, and everything about how everybody think, so many people think it ought to be this one way and this is the only way, and then these people think, well, it should be this way and this is the only way. And there's just like so much strife between
Absolutely.
everybody because of it. And it's like, gosh, whatever happened to just live and let live, right? Let's all just work on ourselves, work on our own internal stuff, and decide what is worth keeping in terms of just our own belief systems about what we think is right. I mean, how many people out there have this idea that there's scarcity? There's a huge amount of the population that thinks that scarcity
Bye, everybody. I've got to go.
Okay, have a good day,
Bye,
Jane.
Have a
Jane.
good
too.
day,
Good
Jane.
week.
Okay, bye-bye.
I mean, but yet nature is not scarce. There's not scarcity in nature. There's not scarcity in the spiritual world. It's just us. We've created this scarcity and we've made it harder on ourselves than maybe what it needs to be. And maybe that is just a mindset shift, a belief change, a letting go of the idea entirely. You know, when we were studying the book, what one was it? It wasn't the Slight Edge, it was the Big Leap. I think it was the Big Leap. And I had expressed how I thought, okay, you know, my life and financial has always been up and down, up and down, up and down. And that book kind of presented this idea like, you know, maybe it's not up and down, up and down. Maybe you can actually just keep going up. And I was like, that's a belief I want to have, you know? So I started really kind of embracing that belief. And I'm like, I don't have to go into a slump if I don't want to. I don't have to have it go back down if I don't want to. And I don't know. It's just changing our beliefs about things. If something's not serving us, if the beliefs aren't, you know, if it's not good for us, if it's not helping us move forward, it's not lifting us up, if it's not any of those things, then we just got to keep feeding ourselves the stuff that we do want to believe, that we do want to experience, that
Those stray pups behind that can't survive. Excuse me. And I can say that something we've studied or whatever I've come across, that as soon as I removed the words "I can't afford it" out of my vocabulary, my very limited income has gone further, been able to stretch it better.
Fantastic.
yes. Go ahead, Jason. All I want to say is yes.
No, I was going to say thank you for saying that. I need to do that more.
It's just my part of the experiment, what I've discovered, what I've experienced. Stop saying I can't afford it, because there is so much abundance
There you go.
available.
What were you going to say, Jason?
I said fantastic. That's yeah, that's great that that you're, you know, focused like that.
Interesting that you said that, Lori, because lately, like the last few nights, I've stopped off at the grocery store, gotten a few things I need to take home just so, you know, pick up and have. And I thought, well, let me, you know, go look at this. Let me think about, but then I haven't gotten that other item because in my head, I'm like, no, I've got, you know, a big bill I got to cover and take care of this next week, and I want to make sure the money and the funds are there. And I'm thinking, no, I'll just do with what the little bit I, you know, bought that I know I need or want, and go home and do with what I got. And I did not let myself get the one little other thing I was thinking of getting. And but hearing you say that, flip that thought process, even if I still don't get it, but change it in how I look at it and reframe it and say, okay, I'm not buying it today because I will, not that I can't get it, but save it and get it another day when I might really enjoy it more, or but changing, instead of
Next week.
saying it to myself that, oh, I can't really afford this right now because of I'm focusing on the thing I'm focusing on. But I love that you shared that, because wow, that was powerful.
Yeah,
Because
it's kind of
next
better
week it'll be on sale.
to say, right. There you go. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because it's kind of better to say, you know, hey, I'm sure I can afford this, but I'm gonna hold off for now because, you know, next week it could be on sale. Or, you know, if you've already decided you're not going to go ahead and get the thing, then why not frame it in a better, more positive light? I think is, yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's important. It's like because like we put spells on ourselves, just like that doctor kind of put a spell on you. The dry eyes, you know. It's like, I mean, and it's funny to me to think of words and we're spelling words as actual spells, but it is in a way, it's like,
it is.
oh,
That's kind of a good way to look at it, I think. Is to, I
Wow.
don't know, we need to put up like an emotional barrier around us so that we aren't like, hexed with the spells.
But that's funny because when
Because
it's funny, spell spell, we're spelling. Oh, I've never made that kind of thought
the
connection.
words together.
Wow.
yeah, that's in someone's teachings about that and talking to ourselves. That's you know putting spells on us and kind of like the witchcraft spells is spelling and if you've ever seen any of those any like books of um the order or things like that, and when they do their ceremonies, some of their stuff is actual like just letters, just they don't look like any words, they're just letters, and it's like, what is
An
that?
S
And
for you.
it has to do with like certain like sounds, because the letters are actual sounds, which are vibrations, which are like, I guess naturally we all kind of understand that we're all sort of
A
frequency
vibration.
honed tuning forks and transmitters and receivers. So, I mean, the whole thing is just quite remarkable. I had to last week when Kenji was showing us his picture on his wall, his poster on his wall, the person sitting in that knees crossed, legs crossed position, and the chakras and stuff. And I was just looking at it, how interesting it was that the overall silhouette of that looks just like a bell. It looks just like a bell would look, and as if the frequency or the sound is moving right up through the bell. It was super,
Exactly.
yeah. So, that stuff sort of comes together uh, so just too well, and it's not a negative thing. It's a kind of systematic kind of just a, I don't know,
Formula.
yeah, like a formula, like the codex to the puzzle, and really allows me to
Kath,
see things differently. So
Catherine, I want you to say that out loud what you put in the text, in the chat.
Oh, about my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's 80 years old. She's never 80 or 81. I think she'll be 81 this year. Anyway, she's never complained of pain. I mean, I can look at her once in a while and see she's got a little discomfort, but she's never ever complained of having any pain. And then um, she did hurt herself just rolling over in bed, like she pinched a nerve or something. And so they did an x-ray of her back to make sure that she hadn't broken anything. And she hadn't broken anything, but she had arthritis and, some compressed areas, which we all get as we age. And from that day forward, every day, all day, she is in pain and is going to have to go on pain medications now because of the pain that she's in. And a month ago, she had none. You know what I mean? So, and it's a matter of inflammation in her body and stuff. But I was just put that in there because of what Samantha said about the dry eye. And, I'm sure I'm the same way as far as like CRPS, because when I was diagnosed with that, no cure, supposedly no cure, which I don't believe that, by the way. I really don't. Um, because I think there's a lot of things that can be addressed that they don't address with CRPS patients. But just being told, you know, come back when you're ready to cut your leg off, just being told that was shocking to my system, and I'm sure I took it in and absorbed it in ways, you know what I mean? Because we're just these big absorbers, sponges, and
How inept. How inept for
they,
some medical provider to tell somebody that. How inept.
yeah,
Criminal and inept. Now that
yeah, it
we
makes me
know, there's no reason to chop anybody's leg off until many, many, many more things have been done.
right, exactly. But maybe that's his experience with CRPS. Maybe the CRPS patients that he's had, no matter what they did, they came back and got their leg cut off. I don't know, you know, why he would tell somebody that. It made me think back on when I was nursing and taking care of babies. You know, at the time, I thought I was doing the parents just or not justice, but I thought I was helping them by telling them the reality of what has happened with their child. In other words, let's say the baby had been didn't get oxygen for 10 minutes or something, and they're set up. We don't know because we can't predict the future, but looking at other babies that have been in that position, they don't have a quality of life. And so sometimes it's better to let them go, you know, and I told that to parents. I told parents that your baby is probably never going to have any kind of function ability. You know, you may want to consider letting them go. And now I look back and those words seem so horrible that I ever said that to them. But at the time, I really believed that I was kind of preventing them from having a lifelong somebody to take care of that would never have a quality of life. You know what I mean? So, but maybe I was just
Sure.
shooting negativity towards them and giving them loss of hope. You know, we never know how our words are going to land on somebody. We really don't.
Mm.
And the same words could land differently on each one.
Exactly. Yeah. And I got to run, you guys, but I love you so much and have a great week.
Love you all. Have a great week.
Sure, love you too.
Oh
Take
yeah, it's
care.
right at 11. Okay, we'll wrap
Love
up.
you.
Everybody have an awesome, amazing week. And for those of you that are watching this recording, if you've made it this far and you've enjoyed this, give us a like, share it with anybody you think it would help. And we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.